Wednesday, February 18, and will reopen on Thursday, February 19 at 8:30 a.m. Programs and commercials for Wednesday, February 18 and Thursday, February 19 should be submitted by 1 p.m. Tuesday, February 17, and obituaries and notices by 1:30 p.m. on the same day to ensure scheduling for broadcast. Love 101 and Love TV wish for you and yours a peaceful, prayerful, and productive Ash Wednesday.
Good evening, welcome. Thanks for joining us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. You're listening to Family Time. And Family Time is about your issues and your relationships. It's about your at-home family, your community family, and your global family. Family Time is produced by Family Life Ministries, and our aim is to enable healthy families which will lead to healthy nations. So stay with us and please connect with us via all our platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Family Life Ministries FLMJA, and on Instagram you can keep up with what's happening, and that is simply FLMJA. Now, while Family Time is a family program, we'd like to caution you that it may on the odd occasion touch on what some people may consider mature subject matter. So your discretion is advised. I'm Roland Gale, and we're talking about something many people experience, but just a few feel comfortable admitting to: jealousy in relationships. And jealousy can show up as concern, fear of loss, or insecurity. But it can also grow into suspicion, control, emotional pressure, and maybe even spiritual manipulation. And here's the reality: both singles and married adults deal with it, sometimes as the one feeling jealous, and sometimes as the one receiving that jealousy. So, as our focus today, we're dealing with a jealous mate. That's the topic, dealing with a jealous mate. And while we have that conversation, we'd like to ask you, you're special to us, and so we want to hear from you. When does jealousy become a reason to walk away? That's our question today, and we want you to send your answers to us via WhatsApp text or voice notes, and the number is 997-3125, and please keep the voice notes to under 30 seconds, or you can call our studio lines, and that's 968-8327 or 968-8328. You can watch us and comment live on Love 101 FM Facebook and on Love 101 FM YouTube. Our conversations are about faith, family, and how we live out our beliefs with love. And so we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
February is the month of love, and wherever love is, peace is present. On the next Campus Connection, we shine the spotlight on peace in practice. Peace is more than a dream. It's a daily discipline. It invites each of us to become active peacemakers in our own lives. Peace is possible when love leads the way. Join us as Dania Aniki, nursing student at Seton Hall University, and Kadisha Williams, youth pastor and student at Portmore Community College, explore how words and images can inspire you to take simple, intentional steps towards peace and embrace the beauty of the present moment. And don't miss our special feature with representatives from the Restorative Justice Branch, within the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, who will be speaking on the value of mediation and dispute resolution among our youth. Campus Connection is proudly brought to you by the Live Good Anti-Violence Campaign, an initiative of the Ministry of National Security and Peace, Jamaica's partner in advancing progress and building peace. Tune in on Tuesday, February 17 at 5:30 p.m. on Love 101 FM, the family station, celebrating 33 years of shining the light of Christ to the world.
News are going on from campus. Come on, tell me what one. Campus connection, take a data one. Hey, I walk one from campus.
Welcome back to Family Time on Love 101 FM, YouTube, and on Facebook. And welcome again, welcome again. Remember to answer our question, when does jealousy become a reason to walk away? And you can use our WhatsApp line, either voice note or text, and the number is 997-3125. Try to keep those voice notes to no longer than 30 seconds. I think I said that already. And you can also call our studio lines, and that's 968-8327 or 968-8328. You can comment live on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. Is jealousy a sign that someone loves you deeply or that they're afraid of losing you? When does that concern become control? And what does God say about love that is rooted in fear instead of trust? Is that even the right way to put it? Whether you're dating, engaged, or married, this conversation is for you. And joining us tonight is a longtime best friend of Family Time. She is the Associate Clinical Psychologist, Sonia Winter from Tea House Therapy. And she'll help us to unpack the emotional and spiritual layers of jealousy, what causes it, what it looks like, how to address it, and how to protect your peace without losing your relationship. Lady Sonia, how are you?
Hi, greetings, Roland. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, man, I'm hearing you fine.
I think I should wish you a Happy New Year, I think.
Oh, we haven't I think I heard your voice though, and I was wishing you a Happy New Year a long time.
Okay.
That's
Thank
good.
you for that.
Thank you. And thank you as well. Thank you for joining us this evening. Before we get into the deep stuff, we want to kind of establish what we're talking about. And so we want to just begin where I think the beginning is. What is jealousy? Is there any way you can just explain jealousy to us simply?
Mhm. Sure. Well, from a psychological point of view, we can treat jealousy as an emotion, and it's often treated as an emotional experience that human beings have when they feel that when they have a fear that they're going to lose something that's very valuable to them. You know, usually love or connection, or for some people even status. You know, how I seem to other people. And we fear that we're going to lose it to a rival, either a real rival or an imagined rival. So once we have that sense that there's a potential we could lose something we really value, then our brain immediately triggers that emotion called jealousy. And I just want to note that from a psychological point of view, jealousy is not automatically a destructive or toxic thing. It's really a signal. It's like your brain is sending a signal that you may lose something important. But what can be damaging or toxic, to use that language, is what we do with that signal, how we respond to that feeling of jealousy. That's what can be really destructive now to our relationships.
All right. Are there other words that we can use instead of the word jealousy? Is there like 2 or 3 words that you would say, okay, I am feeling jealousy, but I'm not going to say jealousy. I'm going to say I am feeling. What other words can we use?
I'm feeling a fear of losing.
A
losing
fear
you.
of losing,
I'm
losing
a, I'm,
you.
I'm, I feel I'm afraid of losing, of falling in your esteem. I'm afraid I'm gonna lose you. I think that's the most vulnerable one, the language you can use.
Okay. And is that normal in relationships?
I think absolutely. I think a small amount of jealousy can actually keep us on our toes, that we make sure we cherish, our significant other, um, because it indicates that you have something that matters to you, something that you value, you know. But the thing about jealousy, healthy jealousy is brief, most often, and
All
it's
right.
something you can discuss openly, but it
All
can
right.
become unhealthy.
Good. Thanks. We're going to run for the break and we'll be right back.
This is Love 101 FM, the family station. It's 5:45.
Word Light and Power Victory Ministry invites you to our 24th annual Victory March on Sunday, February 22 in Penline Castle. Residents from Nest Castle, Tower Hill, Mount Lebanon, and surrounding areas, come out and hear the word from Minister Stanford Bennett with music from Petra Kay, Sister Nikki, and Apostle Kareem Gregory. Come with your praise and requests and hear victory testimonies. For more information, please call 876-425-9222.
Hey, my peeps, get this on the regular. Your HIV status, if you consider, the least of a test once a year. Just 15 minutes and your status clear. Cause it might not show up on your timeline and you learn too late, so you're out of time. A progressive future, mandatory. Really long life, our story.
Remember, update your status in a real life. Do a HIV test today.
Just 15 minutes and your status clear. Really long life, our story. Real long life was a youth coming from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
GT Sound Limited proudly presents The Experience Gratitude Edition. VIP 10,000. General pre-sold 2,500. 3,000 at the gate. Early bird tickets until the end of February. 2,000. Students 1,500. Children 500. Tickets at spuropen.com/The Experience 26. Saturday, April 4. Manchester High School. Gates open 5 p.m. Showtime 7 p.m. Come with your best praise as GT Sound celebrates 40 years.
Welcome back. Now, have you responded to our question? And the question is, when does jealousy become a reason to walk away? Give us a call, send a text, or leave a message. And to remind you, our topic this week is dealing with a jealous mate. So where does jealousy really come from? We're going to do a lot of talking, and we have with us Lady Sonia Winter. I'm so glad she's here because she's going to give us insight and information that we don't necessarily have at our fingertips. And so I want to apologize to her for cutting so abruptly a while ago, but we are back and you can continue.
Sure.
Continue.
No problem, Roland. Yes, you're asking if some level of jealousy is normal, and I would say
Yes.
yes, to a certain
Yes.
degree, because it just reminds you that you have something that matters to you. But it's kind of situational, and it's something you can discuss openly, But
At
it
least we
can
ought to
become
discuss it openly.
all right, exactly. It remains
Okay.
healthy. It can
Yeah.
remain healthy when you discuss it openly. Let's put it that way.
I got you.
Um,
You phrased it a certain way a little while ago, so I want to ask you that. You said if you were to use other words that we could refer to jealousy as a fear of losing.
Mhm.
All right. So is that the same as just plain insecurity?
Not entirely. Insecurity now is often more of an internal feeling about yourself. Like I feel that I am not adequate in some way. I feel that it's because of some inadequacy. I'm not enough in some way. And that feeling of security is almost like an internal assessment of your worth, almost. And you just feel as if you'll never. Jealousy can sometimes be born out of insecurity and can feed and insecurity can feed jealousy. So there's a direct relationship, but it's most often a more internal assessment of your value and your agency and capability.
Yeah, I get you, and I think I understand where you're going with that. Just to look at something that we normally hear, we are humans. All of us have emotions and stuff like that. But when you read the Bible, and particularly like First Corinthians chapter 13, where it talks about what love does and so on, it says love is not jealous. So how do we reconcile that with us being normal, regular humans?
I think, I might need your help here, Roland. From a psychological point of view, the emotion of jealousy doesn't necessarily make us unloving, but actions born out of jealousy can sometimes be unloving actions, I think, is as far as I would go. But maybe you can help me respond in a more comprehensive way to that.
Well, I know you are better able at this, but what I would say is, knowing the passage, one of the things that love reminds us is that it is intentional. There is an intentionality, and there is a deliberation about love. You know, in our Western world, we always talk about, oh, I fell in love and I fell out of, but the real biblical approach to it is that love is a deliberate and intentional series of actions that back up your words. Whereas jealousy, as you had said a little earlier on, is just like a feeling, it's an emotion. And while the emotion may arise, it's up to us to determine whether we are going to act on it or not. So it's kind of like
how we act on it.
How we act on it. That's right. I prefer that. How we act on it. So it's like if you are feeling, maybe this is not 100% accurate, but I'm going to say hungry. Suppose you're feeling hungry.
Right.
You can act on it and eat dirt, which wouldn't be a sensible thing to do. Or you can wait until you get home and you can find a particular meal that is going to be nutritious to you. You're hungry all along, but you're not going to act on that feeling inappropriately.
Indeed. I like that analogy a lot, Roland. I guess I would say, the truth is that jealousy can cause you to be possessive or controlling, and love is not. If your intentional love is not any of those things.
Yes, I like how you said intentional love. For many of us, our culture kind of give us the impression that we can, it's not up to us. Love either has a hold of us or it lets us go, but that's not the way the Bible looks at it. The way the Bible looks at it, it is you who decides that you are going to love. And I guess that kind of brings us to another question. Are there warning signs of this thing jealousy?
Yes, I guess it's exactly what I mentioned earlier, becoming kind of possessive or controlling. So like if you're noticing that, there's constant checking of phones or social media or constant interrogations, and it's kind of disguised as, well, I'm just asking kind of thing. Or it can be really unpleasant when, the person who is experiencing jealousy kind of insists on isolating their partner from friends and families. That's when it's, becoming very controlling. Sometimes there's maybe accusations without hard evidence, but the constant monitoring of the whereabouts and the actions. And then, of course, even emotional punishment, when
What do you mean by that? Emotional punishment. What do you mean by that?
Sure, kind of judging, and criticisms and contempt and, that kind of, creating shame and guilt in the other person, emotions of shame and guilt in the other person, or,
okay,
treating the person with contempt.
Yeah, as somebody who is never ever jealous, That's me I'm talking now. I'm never ever jealous, right? But my partner decided to do something now, and I find this emotion of jealousy coming up. Is it fair for me to say, but you caused me to be jealous? Is that a fair thing to say?
To accuse your partner of making you jealous. Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
because you do this or because you do that. That's why I am jealous.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that it's it's I wouldn't say if it's fair or not fair. I will say it won't be effective. Chances are that if you come at your partner like that, they're not going to be able to see your fear. They're just going to feel defensive. And you're probably not going to get the response you want. So, what I will say is that kind of accusation is probably going to be destructive to your connection with your partner. Okay,
Wow.
because
Okay.
it's almost like you're throwing the first stone. You feel hurt, so you throw a stone, kind of a thing, and it's going to hit and hurt.
Right. Right.
And I think that's what you're going to probably get in return is a defensive posture, and it will be harder for your partner to appreciate the fear or the anxiety you have about
If you approach
potential
it like that.
loss. Yes.
Right. 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 How does your experience, the past, how does that impact this thing of jealousy?
Oh, okay. So past betrayals from a physiological point of view activates your fight or flight response, right? And that is like your body remembers that trauma of betrayal, as it were. So in the present relationship, any little signal that reminds you of that past experience triggers your fight or flight response again, and the fear that I spoke about becomes active. And then if you don't have a good way of self-awareness, you can end up acting out that jealousy on your current partner when it has nothing to do with them. It's all about the past partner that you are not. What in Jamaica, how we say you're frying somebody in somebody else's fat.
Yes, yes, yes.
It's just that your fear has been reactivated. You know what I mean? But the current partner could be very completely innocent. It's just
Right.
that their actions are reminding you of the past betrayal.
So something like social media, how does that impact the kind of feelings of jealousy that a person could have?
So social media makes people's lives a lot more visible, right? And so the jealous partner has visibility into interactions and so on, that generations past had no access to that whatsoever. So yeah, it's true of this generation. But as a result, a jealous partner can see who like you, who is commenting on you, who is sending emojis, and that can be interpreted as a threat to our relationship.
And particularly if you're checking them phone, I mean, why you're checking them phone, but you're checking their phone, and this is what you're going to be able to see, whether it is quote unquote innocent or not.
For sure.
Absolutely. Can you change if you were or are a person who is prone to feeling jealousy? Can you change?
Absolutely. But you have to be willing. You have to kind of have an understanding, akin to what we're discussing here now. You know what I mean?
Right.
An understanding of yourself and be willing to change, want to change. So many of us, when we get caught in the pangs, I want to call it the pangs of jealousy, we feel that our partner has to change, not us.
Wow, I get you. We're going to go for another break. And this is Family Time on Love 101 FM or YouTube or Facebook, wherever you're listening. It's produced by Family Life Ministries. And we want you to tell us, when does jealousy become a reason to walk away? We have some responses already. When we come back, we'll share them with you. You can comment on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. Blessings. Stay with us.
Jamaica live good, yeah. I make we enjoy life, what we feel safe at night. Jamaica
Jamaica, stop the killing and give up the guns. Just live good now.
The time brought to you by the Ministry of National Security and Peace is
6 o'clock.
You can see the face, but not the heart. Those who want to do you wrong. Those so many times.
Bless up. This is Christopher Martin. Human trafficking is a crime. Let's unite to end human trafficking. Be wise, open your eyes. Spot them, stop them, and report them.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
No shadow at the dark. No shadow at the dark.
Hey, my peeps, get this on the regular. Your HIV status if you consider. The least you ever test once a year. Just 15 minutes and your status clear. Cause it might not show up on your timeline and you learn too late, so you're out of time. A progressive future, mandatory. Real long life, our story.
Remember, update your status in a real life. Go HIV test today.
Just 15 minutes and your status clear. Real long life, our story. Real long life for youth, coming from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Welcome back. According to my watch, it is now 1 minute past 6 in the evening here in Jamaica, land we love. And I love that little theme music, you see, man. I wonder if there are words to it. I need to find out. You're tuned to Love 101 FM. This is Family Time, brought to you by Family Life Ministries. And FLM provides counseling for people with all kinds of challenges from all walks of life. Now I'm going to invite Reverend Mike to share his thoughts in another episode of WTF, Word to Flesh Moments with Reverend Mike.
1 Corinthians 13 clearly states, love is patient, love is kind, love is not jealous. There is no escaping or arguing around this capstone scripture on love. If you claim to be in love or have grown to love someone, 1 Corinthians 13 must be the scripture that guides your principle and practice of love. Jealousy is described by the Oxford Dictionary as feeling insecure, unhappy, or resentful due to fearing someone will take what you have. For example, a partner. Other dictionaries have softer or harder definitions of jealousy. No matter how one defines jealousy, what is clear is that the Bible declares that no one can embrace love and embrace jealousy as an aspect of love, either as the one being jealous or as the partner causing the jealousy. This means, therefore, that one must be careful not to cause jealousy or allow oneself to be overcome by jealousy. And while we have this conversation, let's answer the question, when does jealousy become a reason to walk away? If you are married, the easy answer is found in Matthew 19 and Mark 10. What God has joined together, let no man put asunder. Let's adjust our human behavior to fit the divine narrative instead of expecting and adjusting the divine narrative to fit our human behavior. I'm Reverend Mike from Fellowship Tabernacle, and we just had a WTF moment.
Thank you so much, Reverend Mike. We've talked about what jealousy is and where it comes from. Now let's discover what it looks like, and then we're going to try and see if we can talk about some solutions. And Sonia Winter, Associate Clinical Psychologist from T-House Therapy, is here to help us. And if you were listening, I hope you were taking notes, because she has said some very important and interesting things. Sonia, as we come back, right, I remember reading Psalm 139, which is a fairly long psalm, not as long as others, but it's kind of long. Any thoughts on how understanding our identity, the way Christ looks at us, the way God sees us. You have any thoughts on how that can help to reduce these feelings of jealousy and so on?
Sure. Well, I guess if you would permit me, Roland, I guess I'll speak for myself. It's just, how much we can find our place in our faith in terms of how we are loved despite ourselves, despite our inadequacies. We are loved, and that is such a reassuring, comforting feeling. It can be so. It can make us feel so. It can help with a lot of insecurity, help with the feeling of not being enough, you know, and sort of from that place, it can give us space to just always exercise grace, rather than exercising jealousy through control and um, unkindness and contempt. I think that's how I would sort of look at it. It's a kind of, that peace that can surpass
Right,
our understanding, that,
right. When you
despite.
read, yeah, when you read through it, you kind of get a sense, man, this is what it really ought to be like, what it's about, how God sees us. Can we see our spouse and our mate in a similar way?
Mhm.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I would agree with you to say. Um, Now, what does jealousy look like? And for the person experiencing jealousy, how should someone respond when constantly questioned or constantly monitored? How do you do that?
um I think it can be very helpful to identify, see the person, I suppose, first through their fear, be able to acknowledge that there is fear at work here, and to try to be as compassionate with that as possible, but to also answer as clearly and calmly as possible. And I say that because so often you can feel under attack when a jealous partner speaks to you. So it's trying to not escalate the conversation, but to answer as calmly as possible, clarify the facts as much as possible, but as best a way as possible, set some boundaries.
Mhm.
I mean, to reassure the person, look, I will reassure you as much as possible, but I don't want to live under constant surveillance, and I don't want to be treated with disrespect in how you speak to me about my actions. um, I would like you to treat me in a certain way when you bring these things to me, and I will do my best to treat you with the same consideration and compassion.
And respect. I like how you phrase
Respect.
that, because I was going to ask you if reassuring the person is helpful, or does it feed into their behavior when you constantly have to say, oh no man, this is the reason, or explain, and is that helpful? Is that kind of reassurance helpful?
It can be helpful. It's most helpful when you first acknowledge that the other person is experiencing fear. So if you can first say, I think I can see that there's a lot of fear and worry here for our relationship. I can see that, and I want to reassure you about that I am here, we are still sound and so on. And this is where I was. So rather than going first into denial, to say you don't have anything to worry about, it can help you first to acknowledge the pain of the other person, even if they are not
Right,
putting it forward.
right.
And then to reassure. But it's not a guarantee that it's going to work. Sometimes it can enable the anxiety already, especially if, as we spoke about earlier, if the jealousy has nothing to do with you, but of a
Mhm.
form, there's almost, it's hard to undo that for the person.
You have to deal with the baggage first. You can't just address. Yeah,
Sometimes, indeed,
right.
yes.
If we have been speaking about a variety of relationships. What if we try to differentiate between pre-marriage and marriage, dating, that kind of stuff versus marriage? You had referenced setting boundaries. Are there differences between when you're just dating as opposed to when you're married? Are there different boundaries that you set?
I believe so, Roland. When you're married to somebody, you've made a commitment to them. And for me, commitment means that I'm committing that I'm going to do my best to work with you through difficult times, such as when you feel jealous, you know? So there's more, how should I say, a commitment to a longer, more committed focused period of working through these episodes of jealousy. Whereas in dating, you have more freedom to say, I haven't signed up for anything. I sure didn't sign up for this. I'm
And
free
this
to
is a red
walk
flag. I'm
away.
out of here.
This is
Yeah.
a red flag. I didn't sign up for this. I
Yeah.
know what's down the pike
Right.
almost. But I do say
Gotcha.
that, despite the commitment of marriage, I don't think abuse is ever justified by your commitment nonetheless.
Right.
So it's important to because I don't think commitment requires that you have to tolerate abuse indefinitely.
Well,
I
that
do want
brings
to
us,
just say that.
yeah, I'm glad you said that because that brings us to a couple of the comments that we had from our question, the question that we had asked our viewers. And one of them is this: when jealousy, I should say the question first. The question was, when does jealousy become a reason to walk away? And then Rosie from WhatsApp, she says, when jealousy turns into anger, because anger turns into rage and rage gets you in prison. I see you're nodding there, Sonia.
Mm-hmm. For sure,
That's
for
one of
sure.
the that's
And
one of the
that's when,
ones.
yeah, that's when jealousy is now affecting your behavior. How you're acting out your
Absolutely.
jealousy is dangerous.
Absolutely. Here's another one from Roger, and he says, one, if jealousy has been weaponized, that's one reason to walk away. Two, if it leads to constant conflict, whether verbal, physical, or both. And then three, he says, if it eats away at trust. And here I'm going to throw a little spanner into the works. We heard what Reverend Mike had to say when he answered this question. And Reverend Mike said, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. How do we reconcile these things? I mean, your safety, whether it's your mental safety, your emotional safety, your physical safety. How do we reconcile that, Sonia, in your opinion?
Mm, wow, that's a tough one, Roland. That's a really tough one.
Don't
I
throw it back
think.
at me now, don't toss it back to me.
But I think it rests in you know or how we each of us apply our faith. There are different positions on divorce. There are different positions on when enough is enough, depending on which body of Christ you belong to, which denomination, which group. There are different interpretations of that. And so I would certainly encourage each individual to turn to their flock and their understanding as to as to when to draw a line, and when abuse or safety is no longer, um you pass that threshold where it's now time to end the marriage. I think that varies, from time, from place to place, group to group, is as much as I would say about that.
Yeah, I think it's a case by case situation. It's hard to answer that question as a general rule of thumb, in my
For
opinion.
sure. Yeah.
I think we have a voice note that we also got as well. Going to ask studio if we can play that, please.
It becomes a reason when it begins to constrict you, when the person starts being negative about it. Um, I wouldn't say it is natural for people to be jealous, but because of culture, because of upbringing, because of movies, because it's embedded in us, we tend to be like that. The way we handle it is what is another thing. So if you have someone who admits that, okay, I am jealous of you for whatever reasons, it might be because um, I'm speaking in general, right? I'm not speaking about any particular person. It might be because the person is very attractive, very sexy. The person might be highly educated, highly intellectual. The person might have a good job. The person might be independent. The person might be has a bubbly personality, and people are drawn to the person. So the spouse or the partner may feel intimidated, may feel insecure, and that sometimes you can if the both parties are willing to work through it, then it's something that you can work with, because it's just like you have anger, you have something called anger management, and therefore you manage your anger. And just as everything else, if when jealousy, the reason to walk away from when someone is jealous and to walk away from that relationship, when it starts to hurt the individual, where it restricts your life, it constricts you, you cannot go anywhere, your phone is being monitored, your phone is being tapped, the person starts becoming abusive. Definitely you do not want to stay in that relationship.
Thank you so much. That was Debbie from Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you, Debbie. We're going to go for the break right now. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hurricane Melissa may be over, but the emotional impact can linger. It's normal to feel anxious, sad, or overwhelmed. Talk about your feelings. Stay connected with family and friends and reach out for help if you need it. Call the Mental Health and Suicide Prevention Helpline at 888 New Life. That's 888-639-5433. You can also access the You Matter chat line by messaging the word support to 876-838-4897 or at You Report Jamaica. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
This is a special announcement from Love 101 and Love Television. Our general offices will be closed to the public on Ash Wednesday, February 18, and will reopen on Thursday, February 19 at 8:30 a.m. Programs and commercials for Wednesday, February 18 and Thursday, February 19 should be submitted by 1 p.m. Tuesday, February 17, and obituaries and notices by 1:30 p.m. on the same day to ensure scheduling for broadcast. Love 101 and Love TV wish for you and yours a peaceful, prayerful, and productive Ash Wednesday.
Welcome back. You're tuned to Love 101 FM, and this is Family Time, brought to you by Family Life Ministries. And Family Life Ministries provides counseling for people with all kinds of challenges from all walks of life. Remember, you can tune into the program via the Love 101 Facebook page or the Love 101 YouTube channel. And we have an ongoing discussion now on dealing with a jealous mate. And is there hope for relationships that are threatened by jealousy? We have with us Lady Sonia Winter, and she is going to come back and continue the conversation. Jealousy can damage a relationship. Oh, you're not hearing me? I don't know. I am hearing you, Sonia. Go ahead. I can hear you. Go ahead. You go ahead, Sonia. Can you hear me now?
Testing. Can you hear me, Roland?
Yes, I can hear you well.
I'm
Can
not
you hear
hearing
me?
you though.
You're not here. Oh, okay. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to continue the conversation and talk about the fact that jealousy can damage our relationship, and what steps could we take to go ahead and address that? How can we move forward after that? So we're going to just try and get Sonia back on with us. We realize that there is a little bit of a technical difficulty, but that's all right. These things happen. Can you hear me now, Lady Sonia?
Yes, I'm hearing
Absolutely
you now,
great. And I was just telling our listeners that we wanted to talk a little bit about how we can repair a damaged relationship when jealousy is in the midst. Any thoughts on that for us? Anything you can share? How we repair a damaged relationship?
Okay. I think for the person who is feeling jealous, you know, being able to pause before reacting, having enough self-awareness to ask yourself, what story am I telling myself here? You know, um, was it Debbie? Debbie spoke about anger management. It's being able to kind of regulate your body, being able to bring down your heart rate, especially when you're feeling most anxious, agitated, angry, being able to really soothe your nervous system, being able to respectfully ask for reassurance. And then of course, if you're finding that, your reactions are really out of hand, I would really recommend that you seek therapy if you're noticing the patterns existing in a repeated way.
Just to ask this question, when we talk about seeking therapy, is this the individual or is it the couple? How does therapy of that sort normally take place?
I would suggest that perhaps you start with the couple, because sometimes jealousy is a challenge that one person is having, maybe from past relationships, past abandonment, and so on. But other times, sometimes the jealousy is appropriate in that their partner may be acting, I think, as Pastor said, the partner may be acting in ways that are indicative of infidelity or lack of loyalty in some way. And so it may be important to start off with both persons coming, so that both people can express what they're going through in a way that's guided respectfully by the therapist. You know what I mean? And
does
both
that
can,
provide a framework that you can
exactly,
now use? Okay, all right.
for sure.
That it provides that kind of framework. All right. When do you suggest people begin to go and seek therapy? At what point?
Yeah, I would suggest if it's getting to the point where there's escalated arguments, where there is rampant disrespect, unkindness in terms of how you're dealing with these episodes of jealousy, when it's becoming persistent, when you're not able to repair from the arguments, where you're finding that they're becoming more and more heated and escalated, to the point where there is, just damage, and, it's turning into abuse, is where you probably want to get professional help.
There is a question. For those who can see us how we are interacting, they'll know that I've raised my hand, because this is like a grade 3 question. When it comes to things like this in relationships, can third parties influence what I do and say and how I interact with you? I'm asking that because I'm wondering if somebody else can trigger my jealousy toward you. They can say, how you make her go on out by yourself with our friend them, and and therefore feed my, can that happen?
Oh, for sure. For sure. So, think of, if I have had a painful experience in my relationship, you know, I can end up, projecting that trauma onto somebody else. So I see somebody else in a relationship, sorry, and it kind of, there's something that I'm seeing that reminds me of things that happen. And suddenly I'm running to the rescue of my friend, because, I feel that she's at risk of the same thing I endured, even though it's two different people, two different situations. And so I end up planting a seed of doubt, in my friend's mind, which may or may not have anything to do with the relationship my friend has built with her partner.
And reality at all, right? How do you get around that? What are some things that we can try to do to ensure that third parties don't influence our relationship that way?
Wow, that's a tough one.
Oh,
I think it always comes down to the relationship between the two people at the end of the day. Third parties may influence one partner or the other, But what is most important is how do these two people relate to each other? Are they able to share their fears with each other? Can the other person see the fears of that I am expressing? Can the person see my pain and be compassionate with me, reassure me? It comes down to the interaction between these two people. Do they have the skills to bond through the difficulty that may be caused by a third party, for example?
Right. We may have mentioned this before, but I just want to go back to it. We have been discussing different types of relationships. And so, are there things that you look for before you get married that would lead you to say, you know what, I don't think I want to continue this relationship with this person? Are there any things like that that you can give us
Yeah.
as things to look out for?
Yeah, for sure. I would say sort of noticing whether how the person is responding to you at different times in the relationship, paying attention. Does the person really see you, when you're being vulnerable? Does the person is the person trustworthy, meaning do they live up to their word? Is their word their bond? Sometimes too, listening out for the person's past experiences and how they now see the world and see relationships based on their past experiences. Sometimes that's something you want to pay attention to as well. How do they manage their emotions? What are they easily triggered? Are they, are they, what's the word? Are they easily brought to anger?
Can
How
you
do they
rile them
treat?
up with the least thing in them get riled up?
Absolutely. How do they treat other people is also a huge thing you want to look out for. Other people when they're not wearing that mask that they might show you, you know. How do they speak of other people? Are they loyal to other people? Those are things that you want to use as an indication of how they see relationships, how they see themselves, what their values are.
Absolutely. And for our wrap up now, because we have to get going, what encouragement would you give to somebody who is perhaps feeling trapped or experiencing jealousy from their partner? What encouragement can you give them? We have just about maybe a minute or so.
Okay, I would say, if you know that you have not done anything to incur this, that you are being loyal and faithful, then know that you're not responsible for curing somebody else's insecurity. The love that you experience should feel safe, not under surveillance all the time. I would reassure you that jealousy is an emotion that human beings feel in different situations, but control is a choice that people make, and whereas you can hold a person accountable for the choices they make. And when jealousy turns into control, that may be the moment to really ask yourself, is it love that I'm experiencing, or is this fear that the other person, is it running our relationship?
Absolutely. Sonia, thank you so much for being with us today. We learned a lot, and I think you shared some very important insight on this matter of jealousy. And I want to thank as well our listeners for sharing their thoughts and for sending us their comments. We couldn't read everything because time is limited, but Sonia, thank you very much for being with us. And we hope that today's conversation has helped in shaping us in some way in our homes. And of course, if you have questions of a personal nature, or you're concerned about a friend or a family member, we ask you to make contact with us. For more information on our services at Family Life Ministries, or just to reach our counselors in Kingston and other parts of the island, you can contact our head office at 920-1034, 926-8101, 5798-690, or 2798-678. And the last two numbers that I read are WhatsApp enabled. So let me read them again. It's 5798-690 or 2798-678. And note that for appointments and information on costs, you have to call the offices. Our verse for this evening is Proverbs 14, verse 30. A tranquil heart gives life to the flesh, but envy makes the bones rot. Thank you so much for joining us, and thanks to our special guest, Sonia Winter. Thanks to our show producer, Kathy Gale, Derval Graham for piloting us through this hour, and of course, you for being with us. I'm Roland. Have yourself a blessed rest of the week.